Hey, y'all, welcome back to the Yes We Can podcast. Today, I have a dear friend of mine, Anne Tobin, on to talk about all sorts of things. She's a mom of two children that are two girls that are literally exactly my girls' ages, and they go to the same school. We became friends a couple years ago and have grown closer and closer for many reasons. And I'm excited for you guys to hear her story of triumph and everything she's gone through and where she's at today. So, Anne, welcome.
Thank you.
So happy
Glad to be here.
I'm happy to have
Again?
you. I know.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
A lot's happened.
A lot has happened. I know I was thinking about where we were about a year ago when we did the first podcast together.
Mm-hmm.
And I just thought, my goodness,
Yeah.
what a difference a year makes. like, you don't know if he's like a bad guy or a good guy, but we don't want to find out if he's a bad guy. So we're just going to take and that's how he explained it. And I thought, okay, I like that. And at that point I decided I don't want to do this every 2 years. So I did a bilateral mastectomy, and I said, radical,
at that point,
do not spare any tissue. Like, just get rid of it. That was my mentality. Actually, that was my mentality from the get-go.
Mm-hmm.
But they thought at that point in 2008, that was a little radical.
Mm-hmm.
This was probably before the practice of, if you're BRCA positive, you do this as like a preventative measure,
mm-hmm.
right? A bilateral mastectomy. But back then it wasn't as common. And so I did the bilateral mastectomy. And then we sort of moved forward. Tamoxifen I was on for 5 years. I finished in 2013. We moved to Chicago. I thought, all right,
moved from Chicago
to St. Louis. Thank you.
And you're with your husband now.
Yes, we were engaged when I was diagnosed to begin with,
okay.
And then we got married in Chicago. Stayed in Chicago, and honestly, like, we couldn't have kids because of being on tamoxifen. It's not. They've said that it's not safe to try to have a baby while you're on it.
Mm-hmm.
So we were kind of like, all right, well, we've got 5 years of just being the two of us.
Thanks. Dual
totally.
income, no
worked
kids.
a lot. Yep. We traveled a lot. We had a lot of fun in Chicago.
Amazing.
And it was great. And then, motivation was like, okay, I really want to have a family. So we moved to St. Louis and tried to get pregnant. Wasn't happening. Finally got in touch with a fertility specialist, and it really wasn't too long before we used letrozole, actually, and that helped me to ovulate, and then to which will actually come full circle in just a moment, but we used that drug to get pregnant, conceive, and I was 12 weeks pregnant, and I started having, actually it was probably before that, 10 weeks pregnant maybe. I started having a lot of rib pain radiating, and it would come and go, and it would be super intense, like I couldn't breathe, and then it would go away, but I couldn't figure out what this was, and this was my first time being pregnant, so I thought,
This is pregnancy.
And then everybody was like, I don't think you should be having rib pain when you have a 10-week-old, fetus.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, it's probably not right. So anyway, ended up going to the ER. And
were you, quick, first of all, I've been meaning, what, invasive versus non-invasive?
Yes.
Can you explain that real quick?
I can. So, well, I can as much as I can. But essentially my understanding is that if it's non-invasive, it has stayed in the duct, and none of the cancer cells have gotten outside of the milk duct, essentially, where it is.
Okay.
And that's a good thing, because my understanding is that once it becomes invasive, it can be picked up by your lymph system. Okay. And again, I'm not a doctor, so please don't. Doctors are probably listening to me going, not exactly, but
it's layman terms for us.
It's layman's terms for us. Like, it can be picked up by the lymph system. Once it's picked up by the lymph system, lymph nodes, then it could travel anywhere in your body.
So it had become invasive. Your first initial diagnosis
was
invasive.
Even though, it was still very small and very stage one. It was still stage one. I think they graded it still stage one.
Okay.
But they did test my lymph nodes, and we did what's called a sentinel node biopsy, where they basically put blue dye into your lymph nodes, and then they remove the ones that are like at the beginning of the chain, and there was no trace of cancer in them. So
great.
I kind of walked away from that going, okay, they got the cancer, we're doing radiation, tamoxifen will help for the next, whatever, and so I kind of just walked away feeling pretty great about that. And then when we did the bilateral mastectomy, I was like, all right, now I've shut the door on that. I'm good.
Now, what does tamoxifen do?
So my understanding is that, well, let me just back up. So breast cancer has markers, and 3 of the markers are estrogen receptor positive, progesterone receptor positive, and HER2 positive. Mm-hmm. I say positive, could be positive or negative. Mm-hmm. So in my case, with the first tumor, I was estrogen, progesterone positive, HER2 negative. The reason those markers are important is because they have developed drugs from all the research that are very effective at treating cancer cells with those positive markers.
Okay.
So that's why for so long, and I haven't kept up on triple negative breast cancer, but to be triple negative means that none of those drugs work for a triple negative patient. And so they have developed, my understanding is they've developed a lot of other ways to treat triple negative breast cancer, even immunotherapy and things like that. But you can't use the standard, essentially, breast cancer drugs for those.
Got it.
So being estrogen, progesterone positive and HER2 negative is actually very good.
Okay.
It's actually, I think my oncologist said it's the best breast cancer to have.
Right.
So great.
Great.
So in
news.
all these things, very survivable.
Yes.
Thankfully. And so that's back to the breast cancer. So back to, trying to have a baby, being pregnant, rib pain. Fast forward, I was diagnosed with synovial cell sarcoma.
So you went in with the rib pain.
Went in with the rib pain. They sent me home the first time. Got so bad. The day after Thanksgiving, my sister-in-law, who's an anesthesiologist, looked at me and said, "You need to go immediately to the hospital. You can't breathe. You can't walk. You don't look good." So thank God for her. And so we went into the ER. They took me in. They scanned me. They sent me back. They scanned me again. And then they immediately put me in the hospital because I had basically 2 liters of fluid in my chest because my lung had collapsed because I had a 12-centimeter tumor in my chest. So...
And a baby in your belly.
And a baby, yes. And a 12-week-old, or I guess at this point it was probably 14 weeks or 13 weeks, little boy. And so it was a lot. It was boom, 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 boom. We were in the hospital for a few days while they were trying to wrap their brain around. I had a chest tube to drain out all the fluid, which is, if you've ever had a chest tube, really terrible. And just waiting for the news and hearing things like, yes, there is a tumor, there is a mass. Oh, but I'm a glass half full type person. So I'm always but the mass could be benign, even though I've already had cancer, right? I'm the mass could be benign, right? And the doctor's probably not. And Chris and I are ugh. Each time you hear the word cancer, it kind of gets a little easier, but it was still my gosh, okay, here we go again. At that time, he had thought maybe it was leukemia, it could have been sarcoma, and he said something else. And so we're sitting here going, oh my gosh, here we go again.
This is
even scarier, number 2,
time.
Different type of cancer, not at all hormone-based, okay, so very different from breast cancer.
Yeah.
So that was a journey. That was, as soon as we found out the diagnosis, actually we were at MOBAP and the oncologist, he was really great. I really, really, want to I'm sorry, but I don't remember his name, but because he was not my doctor, but he said, this is so rare. I don't know anything about it. It wasn't I am going to try. I'm going to throw what I can at it and try and figure it out. He was I'm taking myself out of the running here.
I'm going to put an expert.
Yes. And there is a doctor, Dr. Van Tine. This is a whole nother part of my story, but Dr. Brian Van Tine, who was at Siteman, who was the foremost sarcoma expert in St. Louis and really in the nation. And he, as soon as I got diagnosed on a Thursday, they said, make your appointment with Siteman. They're going to get you in on Friday. Dr. Van Tine called me that night on my cell phone and said, hi, I'm your oncologist. We're going to get you in tomorrow. We're admitting you to the hospital. We're starting chemo.
Can we talk about what is sarcoma, just for those of us
yes.
that aren't
So
experts?
Sarcoma there are lots of different types of sarcoma. Mm-hmm. You may have heard Ewing sarcoma or I'm blanking on some of them, but there are some that are very common with children, like leukemias. And then there are some that attack sort of bones, but it's bone, soft tissue, and muscle cancer. So it kind of, each type of sarcoma is a little different. Mm-hmm. And my particular one was growing in this tissue between my diaphragm and my lung on my left side, which was the same side that my breast cancer was on. So Dr. Van Tine isn't completely convinced as to whether or not the radiation from the breast cancer caused it.
That went through my head.
Yeah. because he had some other patients that had very similar situations, like to me, like even a friend of mine who who came from Nebraska to see him, and she had the same. She was pregnant, same thing, like in between, like young.
Already had breast cancer?
No, not breast cancer, but just with the sarcoma. Like it presented itself differently in us.
Yeah,
and there were two other actually young men that he was following. The four of us he was following, because synovial cell sarcoma usually is like lumps and bumps in your arms. But for us, the four of us, for whatever reason, and we were young and healthy, like one of the guys was like a marathoner, and it was in our chest. So he's like, what is going on here?
Right.
In fact, he even got my tumor to grow in a rat, which is awesome for research. Like,
okay.
Yeah. So he was, anyway, so he was just always confident, on top of it, ready to go. But he had a situation when he was a fellow with another woman who was young, in her 20s, I believe, and was pregnant. And they saved the baby, and she passed. And he had shared that story with us early on, and that was what had really fueled a lot of the reason why he wanted to solve this cancer. He was like, I want it. This is not happening under my watch, And so he did. He did look at my situation, I think, with that lens, going, oh my gosh, here we go again. And so, even though it was maybe 5 or 6 years later, and he did say, unbeknownst to me, to Chris, it's at like the outset, he's like, we're going to save one of them, and I don't know which one. And I did not. He said that to Chris, my husband. Oh, and I did not know that until like after 2 scans in, that we had gotten a scan that it had started, like the chemo was working. And Chris just, was bawling. For all the good reasons, but it was like more, when you can tell it's more than just what's there. And then he shared that with me, and I thought, you were holding on to that the whole time.
No, when did he share that with you?
Like the first day we went in. Oh, Chris?
Chris, yes.
So I'll just go through the journey. So
okay,
they admitted me to the hospital. I did my first round of chemotherapy, which was 3 days in a row, 10-hour days. I had 2 drugs, adriamycin and a phosphomide, and it was brutal. Anyone who's gone through chemo can get it. But after 3 days, 10-hour days in that hospital, getting infused the whole time, you just want to, I don't know what. Like I didn't want to eat. Chris would sit there and be like, you have to eat that. Just take those 2 bites. It was like a child, but he was like trying to make sure that I took care of myself, and he was so good.
And what was going through your mind? Like, there's a baby in my belly.
Oh my gosh.
What was going through your mind?
I don't even remember. It was just chaos. It was chaos, except that he was so ordered. Like the hospital was so, I was very confident in everything that they did. Mm-hmm. And see, the Lord was working on me. I had when I look back on it, I think about his graciousness to wait until this time to make to really pull the rug out. This makes it sound like God is like, but he does use trials to teach us and grow us. Mm-hmm. And this was something, we had just moved here. I had just started going to a Bible study like once a month. And I just got plugged into a church like 6 months prior. Mm-hmm. So when this news hit, it was like, boom, I had a community of people praying for me and bringing meals and just, all this. So there was so much support, from family and friends here that was overwhelming. And I realized like how difficult it would have been to do that in Chicago. Mm-hmm. Chicago is not one of those places where you can just like park at somebody's house and drop a meal. Like, you can't even find a parking spot, right? So right. It's just very different. And St. Louis, it was just like the whole community came out, and I
very
look at
community based for sure.
How the Lord really covered us with people, with it like his angel arms, through that time. So there was, although it was scary, I felt so supported, and he really did give me a peace. Like the reality is, we don't have control anyway. But as a 25-year-old, 32-year-old now, you kind of think maybe you do have some sort of control. Mm-hmm. And so it literally is raising the white flag and going, don't have control over this. What is going to be is what is going to be. And you just kind of roll through the motions. You go like when you go through chemo, I mean, all you can think about is like laying down. That's all you can think about. It's like try to eat food, try to function, try to take a nap, wake up the next day and do the same thing, And so that was my regimen for 6 rounds. I did 6 rounds of that, and all the things. I mean, all the side effects. There's a drug for every side effect out there, let me tell you.
I'm sure.
I took them all. I had a bag of drugs when they do those like drug takebacks at the police station.
Yes.
I'm
familiar.
They were like my 2 bags of drugs, and I was like, take them. I don't want them anymore,
Yeah.
But yeah, so for all the stuff, and I know I covered this in the first, but we did lose our son at 20 weeks. So that was after round 2, just after round 2. And I started, actually, no, I was feeling fine. I was feeling normal. And then we went in for our 20-week ultrasound, and that's when we found out there. Yeah.
And had the doctor said anything to you about the baby? Were they saying, okay, we're going to just try to get the tumor reduced and keep the baby? Like, what are they telling you?
So the 2 drugs that I was on, one was adriamycin, one was ifosfamide. Adriamycin has been shown to be okay with pregnancy. Okay.
Right. Use it lightly.
It's
right?
not great.
Not great.
But as Dr. Van Tine said, I have to treat what's going on here. If I don't treat what's going on here, you won't be here. So, I mean, truly, those were the words he had to share with me, because it was that situation. I mean, it was dire at that time.
Right.
And so you can look at all the side effects. You can read the list and all of that. But at the end of the day, if you don't treat the tumor that you have, then who knows what could happen.
I mean, that makes logical sense.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering, as a mother who's pregnant, going through cancer for the second time, pregnant after trying.
Yeah, I mean, it was the desire of my heart to have kids. And then I'm like, God, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? I did not understand it. But Van Tine did say, that baby saved your life. Because the thing about sarcoma is that it often remains pretty hidden, because it's not in an organ. So it's not like you have like this organ failure or some issue with your organ. It remains hidden until it metastasizes. And because I was immunocompromised from being pregnant, it just allowed us to find it. And so he was like, it has not spread. It is a single site, which I don't often find.
Wow.
Where there is just a single tumor. It is too big to operate on. However, we have things at our disposal. So the reason we did chemo was because it was so big, they couldn't take it out without disturbing all of my other organs. I mean, if you look at my x-ray, my esophagus was like to the side because this was so big.
Seriously.
And I was going through life for, who knows how quickly it grew or how long it had been there. I just don't know.
Right.
But definitely being immunocompromised, I guess, helped.
Right.
Somehow. And so going back to the chemo, so thinking about the baby and what do we do and all this stuff, ifosfamide is brutal, and it has not been studied to be safe. And he warned us about that, and we said at the get-go, I mean, as much as we want this baby, Anne's life is the most important thing. And Chris and I both agreed on it, and so we knew that there was a chance that it would, yeah. Would I have loved to have him here? Absolutely. Of course. He's in heaven. We talk about him all the time, you know, that one day we'll get to meet him. And so, and I also, just knowing how hard that was on my body, I don't know how I would have gone through another 4 rounds of chemo. All the way, they were going to take me to about 32 or 34 weeks. They were going to take me early to try to reduce the exposure and all of that sort. So, I mean, we were talking with high-risk OB. You know, we had everybody in the room. And they were wonderful. Everybody all the doctors were wonderful. And so anyway, long story short, all of that went, by the time we found out at that 20-week ultrasound that there was no fluid around the baby, but the baby was still living. And I was just like, they were like, you're going to have to make a decision about this pregnancy. We would not recommend that you go to full term because this baby will never have a quality, like they won't be able to breathe outside of the womb. So, and then you're sitting here going, oh, so you're asking me to make a decision about like terminating this pregnancy, which is, that is too much. It's too much. It's too much to deal with, but at the same time, you have to face it. And that was just prayer and prayer and prayer. And God, like, take this away from me. Take this away from me.
Yeah. Like,
I don't want to have to make this decision. And, this is just from my point of view. I mean, if Chris were here saying to you the same thing, And anyway, there's a lot to that story, but God really, God did not make me have to make the decision. The next day I felt really ill. Went into the, where you go when you feel sick, when you have chemo, or when you're getting chemo, or you have cancer and you're sick, you go to a particular place in the cancer center and they check all the stuff. And they checked all the stuff, and I was there all day. And then they said, we need to send you to triage. And I just knew immediately like what was going on. Because it wasn't from the cancer. It was because the baby had passed. And my body was already starting to like react to that. Mm-hmm. So anyway, so that was that. And boy, did I hit every 6 seconds. I think you can push that button for pain meds. And I was like, I'm going to numb myself as much as possible. I do not recommend this, but it was like all I could do to get through that night. Because at 20 weeks, they had to put me into natural contractions because I had to like essentially give birth, although it was a DNC. But anyway, they put me to sleep. I was like, I don't want to be awake for this. I don't want to, like, no, I can't see this. I can't unsee it. I can't.
Was Chris able to be in the room, or he couldn't?
He wasn't. I mean, they just kind of did the operation themselves.
Yeah, right.
And it was okay. We got little feet prints. They're so little.
Oh my gosh,
we have them. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
My gosh, my heart is just. I've heard this.
Yeah.
I've heard you share this, but it just is like breaking again. It's just.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah. So anyway, but at that appointment when I was recovering from the DNC, my Valentine came in and was like, we need to get you some good news. And he's like, I'm going to move your scan up a week. Because I usually got scanned every 2 rounds just to see if it was working. Mm-hmm. And this was our first scan after we had started chemo. So we didn't know if it was working or not. And so it was at that appointment that he said, I'm going to get you some good news. And I was like, man, I hope you're right.
Yeah.
He's like, me too.
Dear Lord.
Rolled me back, did the scan, came in. It had gone from 12 centimeters to 7 centimeters, which thinking 12 to 7, how much it shrunk. And he looked at us and he said, it's working.
Oh
it's working. And it was like, I knew at that moment that I was going to live. I wasn't sure before that. I wasn't sure who was going to live, I didn't even have time to think about that, to be honest. I was just going to the next thing and the next thing. Mm-hmm. So and then, you just muddle through the rest of it, muddle through the, all the rounds. And every time you have to get a blood transfusion because you feel like you can't peel yourself off the floor, like all of the stuff. And then after 6 rounds of that, I waited probably a month or 2. And then I did 5 weeks of proton therapy radiation, which at the time, Siteman was one of the only centers that had a proton therapy radiation. So all this stuff, moving from Chicago to St. Louis, having Valentine, like God had put all of these pieces together. Having a community, having our family here, like just so many things. And here, because I had already had 6 rounds of radiation on that side, in that area, which is more, it's like, it's like this big block that they do. Mm-hmm. And this proton therapy radiation uses, all this technology and these plates and all this stuff to essentially get the beam exactly where it needs to go.
Right.
And so, man, I did that. And that was, man, I started recovering then because it was not as harsh, obviously, on my body. And I was thankful that I didn't have to like hit my whole section with another round of radiation. And then after that, it was small enough to remove. So we did a thoracotomy, which is horrible. And then I had a bonus thoracotomy because
What does that mean?
a thoracotomy means they go through your back. They have to go through like kind of like your ribs. So they have to like sort of remove part of your rib to get in through the back to remove it.
Okay. Why couldn't they get it from the front?
I don't know.
Okay.
Too many organs, maybe.
Okay.
I'm not really sure.
Yeah. Okay.
It's horrible.
It horrible.
Was horrible. I can't, like, the pain. And then, because I've had so much radiation on this side, they had stapled me up. So they had to remove part of my lung. They removed and reconstructed my diaphragm, and then they had to remove part of my lung. But because of the radiation, the way they described it was like, it's like stapling paper towel, wet paper towel. Like, that's how compromised the tissue is. And they did their best. They did remove the tumor, clear margins and everything. It was beautifully done.
Amazing.
And then I was in the hospital for probably about a week. And then I got home, and like the second night I got home, I would lay down and all this fluid would come up in my throat. And I was like, this doesn't feel right. So I call it. They're like, you need to come back into the hospital. This is not right.
Oh, my goodness.
My doctor was out of the country.
Oh, lovely.
My surgeon was out of the country. So I had
Lovely.
to like sit there for a weekend waiting with a chest tube again, another chest tube. I had to carry like my little suitcase around the hospital. Anyway.
Is it
and
called
then,
ascites? Is this ascites or no?
what is it?
Ascites, is that where the fluid builds up? That's what Kyle had.
Oh, yeah. It fills up. They basically like put a tube in your body
To drain.
where the fluid is to drain it. And then
Yeah.
it goes into this.
Correct.
It looks like a suitcase.
Yeah.
And you have to carry it around everywhere when you're in the hospital because,
Right.
you're hooked up to all the stuff and
Right.
you can't go anywhere without your suitcase of fluid from your body.
Oh, gosh.
Anyway, so I just remember looking at Chris when they said, we have to go back in there and we have to reconstruct. Basically, they had to take my latissimus muscle to get good tissue and staple it to my lung, like make it part of my lung because it just wasn't too compromised. And I looked at Chris, I was like, I can't do it. I'm done. I am done. And he was like, you have to do it. I mean, he like took my face in his hands. He was like, you have to do this. Like, you can do this. You have to do this. And I was like, oh,
sweet Chris.
So we did that again. So it was like I recovered and I was like getting there, and then it was like boom, back down again. And then I started recovering. And then I don't know, I hit a point like a month later and I felt like, oh my gosh, I'm starting to feel better again. Starting to recover again. I'm starting to feel back to normal again. And then, my doctor said, you're not allowed to start trying for kids until I say that your body is okay to do that. And then he gave us the go ahead, and he's like, I mean, I had trouble getting pregnant before, but Molly came after like maybe a couple months, and not a couple months. I mean, obviously I was pregnant after a couple months.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, so as part of, so this is something that's also really important because all this, he used letrozole to get pregnant to begin with. The second time after my pregnancy, after we had lost our son, they recommended that I go into menopause to protect my organs so that I could have a baby potentially. I mean, we thought, oh gosh, after all this, there's like no way. But God has a way. And they did. They put me into menopause through the rest of my rounds of chemo, and then we ended up having 2 healthy girls. So we have 8 and 6, 8.5 and 6.5.
I know.
And they are beautiful gifts from God, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, after you lost your baby boy
Mm-hmm.
and you're still trying to get rid of this cancer, like at what point were you able to grieve the loss of your son? I mean,
Yeah.
did that hit you all of a sudden at one point? Like what, and
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when did that hit you, or when were
It's
you allowed
weird because like at the same time, and I'm such a glasses half full, and I always look for the good that God is doing in my story. And sometimes I do that before I actually feel it.
Mm-hmm.
So the weird thing about this was that at the same time that we had the most horrific news, we then also got the best news that I was gonna live. So you go from being like on the floor in grief over just what, and frankly, I was numbing myself to that to that fact at the moment. I was like, I'll grieve this, and I think I did, but I saw so much of how God was moving and working in my story that I just had to hold on to that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think, to answer your question, I'm not sure I properly grieved it, because I was, at the same time, I was like just going through it. And I was also like holding on to every good, positive.
Trying to live.
Yes. And that was really important.
Yes.
But I
very
don't
important.
think the grief hit me, honestly, until after I had Molly. And, whether it was postpartum depression that I experienced, or it was grief, or it was a combination of the two, I definitely was in a state of something. And I didn't really realize what it was. It was like nothing was quite right after that. Mm-hmm. And like, I was so thankful and so joyful, like this miracle baby. And then it's like, then you feel bad about, you're like, all I wanted to do was be a mom. And look at all this I've been through. I should be so grateful that this child is here. And I am. I'm like,
so
Molly.
grateful, but you're sad and you don't know why. And
right. So that was all of that. And then like there was some residual grieving probably that was happening, but I didn't realize what was connected to what. And then we had our second, and I just kept thinking like things will get better after like a year, because really what happened was after I got pregnant with Lucy, when I was going through all that with Molly, then I got pregnant again, and that sort of like went away because your hormones are different, right? Mm-hmm. Like you're just, and then you're so excited for the next one, and you're, and anyway, it was like a year into delivering Lucy that I was like, this is not going away. And then it sort of morphed from like high anxiety to depression. And then of course that was 2020. It was COVID. It was all the stuff. It was everything at once. And man, I felt like I couldn't see straight.
Yeah.
And so I think some of that was, there was grief. And I have a counselor too, and she was walking me through it. We did EMDR, which I don't know if you've talked about on this, that was very helpful. I'm not sure we ever really got into the deep EMDR of my cancer story, but there was a lot of understanding, how the brain creates patterns of thinking, and understanding that even just in my whole life story, and then being able to look at things differently that way. And so all of this was going on. And anyway, so that was super heavy. Yeah. And then scan after scan after scan. And even in last year, we're talking no cancer, no cancer, no cancer, no cancer.
The kids are now 8 and 6, 8.5.
Kids are 8.5 and 6.5. And so that is a memory that is distant, but at the same time can be super acute.
Of course.
But for the most part, it is distant. And so I guess I can go into the next phase, but every time I go in to get my scan, I mean, there have been times where I'm like super freaked out about my scan, but for the last 3 or 4 years, I've just gone in feeling
confident.
Totally. And this year,
I want to talk. Yeah. We're gonna get to that for sure.
Yeah.
I want to talk here, like the connection between you and I, and how you stood by my side, and you were there, through Kyle's diagnosis and treatment, and the connection that we had, because our daughters are literally like, I think this is amazing. I tell it to everybody we meet. Our daughters are literally a few days apart, each of them. So Molly and Cora are 5 days apart, and Lucy and Leah are
like what, the 14th and the
11th.
Yeah, so
3 days apart. So literally the exact same age.
Yeah.
Like, I personally feel like that's a God thing.
Oh yeah.
To
put you in my life, and yes,
each other in each other's lives at that time, and so they both understand cancer in different ways. But it's just you and your family, Chris has just embraced it and let us come over, and I feel like we're a part of your family. Like,
Thank you, Chris.
yeah, thank you. Just come over whenever. I just, it's been such a blessing. And I know I said this at the beginning, but just everything you've gone through, it's, and last year being an awful year, and you just were so solid and strong and healthy, and fast forward to, the news we're about to share.
Yeah.
Let's,
Should we drop the bomb? We'll
drop the bomb.
Okay. So I went in for my scan in November. And actually, I just want to I want to quickly say a tribute to Dr. Van Tine, because he actually passed suddenly in October.
Yes.
And it was, gosh, shocking news to the community. He was mentoring most of the people in his field and in his department. He was in the middle of, as soon as, even probably a month or two before his death, he had gone and done all these conferences and these, I saw some videos of him presenting his latest research and all. He was in the prime of cancer research, prime of healing. I remember even 3 or 4 years ago, I kind of was freaked out about one of my scans, and he's like, Anne, I just want you to know that you being diagnosed, even if you were diagnosed today, it would not look anything like what it looked like 6 years ago, or whatever. And it's just that he was always, before he would cross the threshold of opening the door to come in and tell me my news, he would stand before he walked in the door. He would say, your scan looked perfect. You have no cancer. How are you doing? He would just out with it. And I never left there without giving him a big bear hug. And he was just the most wonderful physician and doctor and person. Yeah. And so I just want to just pay tribute to him, because he was wonderful. Yeah. And I have a new doctor now who was part of his team before, and she's wonderful too, Dr. Mia Weiss.
Awesome.
And so I was thinking, I'm not going to see her because I see the nurse practitioner when I go in.
Right, and you're cancer-free.
I've graduated from seeing the doctor.
Right.
What's that?
I've been
cancer-free for 11 years.
11 years. 11 years.
Uh-huh. And so I go in, I see the nurse practitioner. She says, well, there's a spot on your right lung, and I had been doing x-rays. And we want to get a second set of eyes on it. We wanted you to go in for a CT scan.
And when was this again?
This was in November.
November of 2025.
Yeah, end of November. And so, honestly, I felt still very peaceful. She's like, do you see that spot? I was like, kind of.
Right.
But I was kind of like, I'm not really, I'm
right.
not practiced at reading these pictures. So, but I felt very, this is the God, peace that surpasses all understanding. I felt very peaceful. Mm-hmm. I was not worried about it at all. Even though I've had cancer twice, I was thinking, this is nothing. And I really wasn't scared. And then we went in for the CT. I went in for the CT. Then I followed up with Dr. Weiss and her fellow. And it was, Chris and I walked out of that appointment. I go, I think they think it's cancer. What did you think? And he was like, yeah, I definitely think that's what they think. And I was like, okay, so here we are going, oh my gosh, okay, 11 years and my sarcoma's back. And then, of course, that day, when you're processing that, talk about stuffed grief. My body remembered all this trauma. I started to go to bed and I was like, I think I have a flu. I felt achy. I had a headache. I was I woke up in the middle of the night and I felt terrible. And I woke up the next morning and take the kids to school. I thought I was going to vomit in the car. And I'm not a throw up person. I was so sick. And then I realized, I was like, this is my body remembering what it feels like to get chemo, what it felt like to have a sarcoma diagnosis, and what that was. My body was like, no. You're not safe. This is not okay. Not again. And as soon as I recognized it as a trauma response, actually, I started feeling better. I was like, okay, this is what that is. Mm-hmm. I am safe. No one said anything yet. Mm-hmm. I've no proof that this even is cancer, let alone sarcoma. Mm-hmm. So she orders a PET scan and a biopsy. So they have to do a biopsy into my lung, which is not great.
Also
but
not
is
great,
what it is.
Right?
Yeah, you have to stay awake for it because you have to breathe. So you have to get right in that spot. And so anyway, that was not great. And then again, you're remembering all the trauma. You're like
PTSD.
They're stabbing me, and the room is freezing, and they're putting more blankets on you, and like it's like the highs and the lows and the this and that, and I just want to get out of here. And anyway, and then the PET scan. I'd never had one, believe it or not. Never had a PET scan in my life. Had a PET scan. That was actually pretty easy. Brought my dear friend Gigi with me, and she just kept me company and chatted up every single tech that came in our room. And
sweet Gigi. And
that was, it was wonderful. And as wonderful as that can be, but to have company with it. And then I found out that the PET scan showed only one spot and some activity in the lymph nodes, which to my sarcoma oncologist, I think she was thinking that was non-cancer activity. If we're talking sarcoma, it wouldn't be in the lymph nodes, is my understanding, or was my understanding from talking with her. So she was kind of thinking, maybe, were you sick? She was asking all these questions,
right.
Have you had pneumonia? Have you been sick? All these questions. And I thought, no, I feel great. I actually feel great. Except for the fact that she punctured my lung yesterday. Right. She's like, I'm sorry about that.
Yeah.
I can laugh about it now because whatever. But so then she calls me on December 26th. So much I had chemo on Christmas. Chris had, emergency back surgery on Christmas.
In the
I was
past.
pregnant with in the past.
In the past.
So many Christmas things. And people are like, oh man, what a crummy thing to happen over the holiday. I'm like, yeah, we're used to it. This is part of our story. But anyway, she calls on the 26th and she says, good news, it's not sarcoma. And I'm like, not sarcoma. She's like, but it is malignant for breast cancer. And I thought, oh my gosh. In all the scenarios Chris and I had talked through, breast cancer didn't even come. I was like, but I did everything. I checked all the boxes.
Meaning
checked all the boxes that they told me to do. I did my lumpectomy. I did my radiation. I did my tamoxifen. I even did a bilateral mastectomy. I didn't even keep any tissue. And so I'm thinking, how in the world
is this breast cancer?
Right.
Are they sure? Do we need a second
opinion?
Yeah.
So anyway, I met with my oncologist. This is all very fresh on the 12th. It was about a week ago. Yeah, about a week ago. And they are thinking this is a recurrence of my 2008 breast cancer as the same marker. So again, best breast cancer to have, thank the Lord. But it is a 1.5 centimeter tumor. It's in my lung still currently, unless God has healed me miraculously, which I am praying for, and y'all can pray for. Mm-hmm. But that's where it is, and the lymph node activity makes sense, given that possibly it could have been in the lymph nodes. So that also means that it could be anywhere, and that's the way they treat it. So because it's a recurrence, because it's no longer in the breast and it's somewhere else and it's in the lung, the grading sounds terrible. I'm not claiming it over myself, but it's stage 4 metastatic cancer, which I know when I told you was just, because I'm not sure what patient out there, if you've ever heard those terms, if that's ever helped you. I don't think it's helpful at all. Everything else out of her mouth was so positive. This is very treatable. Mm-hmm. We have multiple drugs. This is what we think. We have a clinical trial. All the other things that she said were so positive. But it's like they drop the bomb, and then you have to decide what you're going to do with that. What am I going to do with you saying over my body that I have a stage 4 metastatic cancer diagnosis?
After the third time around.
Right.
After 11 years cancer-free, mm-hmm. feeling great.
7 years cancer-free, 11 years cancer-free, 18 years breast cancer-free. So this is 18 years after my original tumor. Now here it is.
And doing all the right things.
Doing all the right things. I think you can attest I'm pretty healthy.
Yes.
Here's the thing. This is and all of these emotions, all of the things, my brain is going a million miles an hour about, and I don't know. I think at some point you consider, or you get in your head, you're like, what could I have done differently? What could I have done differently to change this? And see, I think this is what God is teaching me, is that he's in control and there is a purpose for this. And I can choose to latch on to stage 4 metastatic cancer, or I can say it's in his hands and he is in control and only he gets to say how long I live and what is going to happen from today on. You know, Chris and I are talking about, it's like, okay, so what do you do with this? You know, what do you do with something that they say, well, you're going to live the rest of your life with this, which is very different because every other time it's been treated, move on. This is like a whole nother.
So they're saying you're going to live your whole life with this, essentially.
Yeah. So because of the way that it is, it doesn't make sense to go surgically remove it. Because what if it's microscopically somewhere else and then it pops up?
Right.
Pops up here. Then Chris, I mean, he said used a great terminology. He was like, it's like whack-a-mole. Gotta keep attacking these things that come up. So instead of doing that, and thank the Lord, they don't recommend chemo or surgery to remove it. And I'm guessing we didn't talk radiation, but I'm guessing it's radiation would be the same thing as surgical removal. Like you're just pinpointing that area. So because it could potentially be anywhere, it's a drug regimen. And so because it's estrogen, progesterone positive, they gotta suppress my hormones again, which is what the tamoxifen did. So their first line of defense is you got to go into menopause. So I'm currently living the dream.
Living the dream in menopause.
Postmenopausal at the moment.
Isn't that exciting?
And that was done yesterday with a shot. So it's not permanent, but the choice is, you know, every 28 days I get a shot to put my body into menopause, or I could discuss having my ovaries removed. So that would reduce the amount of estrogen that's coming into my body that these cancer cells are desiring and feeding off of. That's the idea. Shut that down. And then and so that's, I'm actually talking to Gyne-onc on the 28th to figure out, do we remove ovaries and all that? But because of my history, because of my hereditary history, I'm also seeing genetic counseling. They've taken my blood, and we will be having a lot of conversations about what my risk is for anything else, right? And so it could be that they say, you know, you're at higher risk for XYZ cancer, and there may be other things to remove. So that remains to be seen if that's the way that we take care of this sort of like menopausal situation. But that has to happen first. And then there's another drug. Here we go with letrozole again. Letrozole, the thing that I got pregnant with, is now going to be the drug that they use to block the rest of the estrogen in my body, to manage basically ensuring that the estrogen doesn't get to the cancer cells, right? Like that my body isn't producing an estrogen that the cancer cells feed off of. So that's part of it. And then the other part is a drug that they use to arrest the cell division. So it goes in, targets the cancer cells, and basically says, stop. So they just stay there. They don't, like where chemo, I think, kills the cells and radiation is like kills the cells. This is more of like it arrests the cell division, provided that you're on the drug. So that's where you say, okay, is it lifetime? I mean, they're always doing research, so who knows? Only God gets to say that.
Right.
But for now, yeah, I mean, I asked the doctors, I was like, well, what if after 2 months, like, everything looks clear in the scan? She's like, you'd still take the drug. Okay. So.
And we're talking to a woman who
yeah,
was not on anything.
Well, that's yes and no. Like, I was never on anything. I was,
prescription-wise.
I grew up, like, my parents are so healthy. Like, they were healthy before it was cool to be healthy. And it was so, like, it was the worst. We had the peanut butter with, like, the liquid on the top. Everybody else had the Jiffy, you know, the Skippy, whatever. Yeah. And so before it was cool to be healthy, my parents were, like, trailblazers.
Right.
And so I have always kind of had that bent.
Yeah.
But when my depression hit, I tried all the natural things. And we finally it was like, I need something.
At some point,
I
that's
needed
what the
an
medicine
antidepressant.
is for. Correct.
So I did. I went on an antidepressant at that time, and it really did God really used that to turn the lights back on.
Praise the Lord. Because sometimes that can be difficult to try to find one that works. So, trials and tribulations and this drug and this, milligram, and it's not always
100%
smooth. And
so that was such a God thing. And actually, at the time that we were about ready to do that, I had heard about this cheek swab called Gene. Well, there's a couple companies, probably more companies that do it now, but then I think we did it through Genomind. And they take your DNA basically, and they swab it and they compare it against all of the drugs and these are like mental health drugs, right? So we're talking anything from ADHD to depression, anxiety, all that sort of stuff. And then it tells you your risk factors for taking an SSRI versus an SNRI. And it was so helpful. And so it did. It worked. And it was very helpful. And then I felt God leading me over the last 3 or 4 months. Crisis is over. It's time to remove. It's time to wean off of it. And I felt like, okay, but I'm scared. I was scared. Because anyone who's been on an antidepressant, your before and your after, you're like, I can't go back to that place. I will not go back to that place.
Ever, right.
And so I was scared. And he gave me a very clear vision that he would carry me through it. Mm-hmm. And he did. I was weaning off, and it was going fine. I mean, I had some bumps in the road, but for the most part, mood-wise, I've been great. Right. Removed that, and then, of course, this news came, and I was on progesterone.
After you were done. She'd been done weaning.
I just finished it, and then I got diagnosed.
Like, done with the prescriptions, taking a few vitamins. You're good.
So I'm sitting here, like, scratching my head, and then realizing that, like, God can use all things. It's not like your one path is holistic and one path, it's either medicinal or holistic. It can be whatever he decides is what is best for you. And I think the most important thing is that I'm not doing this. Like, I'm not the one. I don't know all of these things. I have no idea what's going on in my body.
Right.
And even the doctors know a lot, and they, but everybody's different,
right.
And they operate in experience and statistics and science and medicine, and all of that's really good, but only God knows what's going on in my body,
right.
and what I need and what is going to support or, hurt me in the process. So I'm just it's like I'm constantly in this posture of surrender. It's like I just have to surrender again. Like I've always trusted in the doctors, and I do still. Yep. I will follow them, and I will listen to what they say, and I will pray over everything that I do. And if there are side effects, then I will look to what are the options. Are there holistic options? Are there medicinal options? Like, what do we do here? And that's all I can do, So yeah, it was like, here we go. Now another drug, but God here I am. I'm still here.
Still standing.
So what's the drug? Like, what's a drug?
Yep.
So or a couple drugs.
What were you thinking from diagnosis? So the 26th we find out until the 12th. And I mean, I know you and me, have talked personally about this, but just for our listeners, like what's going through your head? What's going through Chris's head? Have you told the kids at this point? Like what's happening over those couple weeks?
Gosh, it was a roller coaster. I mean, at first I was like, oh God, like God's going to do something so amazing. Like that's my initial instinct is like, God is doing something through this. And I was so excited to like see like, oh, maybe he's going to like miraculously heal me. Wouldn't that be a great story? And like he may. But I also
Miracles
trust him regardless of what he does. I mean, he's never done that he's not like he's taken it away immediately, but he's healed me, right? But he's used these things to heal me. And then a lot of grief. And honestly, so trust is so important in our marriage. It is like one of the most important things that we talk about with our kids. Like lying is not okay. Like you can tell us everything. You should tell us everything. Because this doesn't work if we can't trust each other. And so Chris and I talked a lot about it, and we just felt like there's no way that we're going to be able to do this without telling the kids. It really wasn't even on the table. Our oldest is very typical older child, that she's very wise, and she knows, she sees, she doesn't miss much. And so I just knew, like, we had to share that with her. And so that was hard. There was a lot of warfare that I won't even go into, but there was just a lot of grief and a lot of confusion and a lot of sadness and a lot of questioning God. Like, why does God allow this stuff to happen to you? Like, if he's in control, why doesn't he just take it away? And these are like really good questions to talk about with your 8-year-old, because adults still wrestle with these same questions.
Yes.
And so we're like, because we trust in the character of God, and we trust that he has a plan, and he's already given us everything that we need. Like, our future is secure. We're not promised a life free of suffering. In fact, if you read the Bible,
It says.
It's suffering, suffering, suffering.
Correct.
In fact, it says, consider it joy, my brothers and sisters, that you'll suffer trials of many kinds, and just even thinking about our Friday group, of many kinds, like so many different kinds of suffering that are going on. But we take heart because we know he's in control. He's sovereign. And we trust in his character, and he never leaves us. He's always with us. And so, it's just teaching her, like, he loves you, and he always knows what's best for you. And there are things in our lives that we have to lay down. Like, we have to trust in him alone, not in this, this medicine or this lifestyle or this, like it's him. And so I can look at the situation and I can go, I have no control. I actually never had any control. This was something that we had a conversation, Molly and I, because she just said, Mom, are you going to die? And I was like, well, we're all going to die. Like, that's a guarantee. Am I going to die now? I don't know. It doesn't appear that way at the moment because this is very treatable. But even if that was God's plan for me, he's sovereign over my life. He has authored my days. He knows exactly how long I'm going to live, how long you're going to live, how long. And even if you didn't want it to, Molly, you can't do anything to change that. Dad can't do anything to change that. Lucy can't do anything. I can't do anything to change that. We have to trust in the plan. And, like, you're a walking example of that. Like, you could look at the situation and you can go, this is horrible. Like, why, God, would you do this to our family? And at the same time, you're like, there's a bigger story at play. And I know your character. And I have to wrestle through it. And, like, what are you trying to teach me? And so I think with all of this stuff, it's like you have a choice. You always have a choice. See, God gave us the dignity of choice. We're not robots. He gave Adam and Eve a choice in the garden. They took that choice, right? They made that choice. We have a choice in everything that we do. And it's incredible because you can choose to wallow in it. And some days, grief is super appropriate and lament is super appropriate. And there's a difference between grieving it and lamenting it and complaining about it. Those are two different things. And so we are called to grief because grief is, I always say grief is patient. This is not me. I'm sure I've heard it from somebody else. But grief is patient because if you don't grieve it like I didn't before, I moved straight from losing a baby to I'm going to live, it catches up to you. And oftentimes it does come out in anxiety, depression, other types of ways that you're not expecting 3 years later. And you're going, why do I feel this way? Right? But it is hard to grieve it, especially when I look at your situation where you're like, I'm here. I got these kids. I got to move. I got to go. I don't have time to cry about this.
Right.
And so giving the space or even like taking people up on allowing you to have the space, like to grieve, however you can do that is super important. And on a day where I just feel sad about it, and I tell the kids, I'm like, Mom's just sad today. Yeah. Mom's sad. And like, Mom's really actually mad today. Right. I was really mad and sad on Saturday. It was kind of a rough day for all of us. And I felt like I was wrestling with, could I have done something differently, and then none of us would be in this position. And then God's like, no, you couldn't have, you couldn't have. But this is purposeful. Just hold on to me and trust me. Trust me. So I think, to answer your question, like it's been a roller coaster of emotions over the past, couple of weeks. And some days I'm like, God, you're like so in control and you got this. And then
we got this.
And then some days I'm like, even just like yesterday going into this, the unknowns. Like, I don't know how I'm going to feel after I get a shot for menopause. I mean, many people out there have done this. I did it, but it was like in the middle of chemo. I have no idea what was up, what I was feeling from chemo, what I was feeling from the shot. Like, I don't know. And it was crazy because it's like, see, God's giving me a second chance at a lot of these things. And even like being able to grieve residual grief, like that trauma response that I had, to release that was super helpful and super healthy. And then, going in yesterday to the infusion center, all the familiar places, right? Watching everybody sitting in the pods, getting their chemo stuff, all the smells, all the antiseptic, all of that, the needles, the stuff. And, your body's going,
Oh gosh,
you know?
I know.
And then Chris was like, how did it go? And I was like, I don't know. I went in there and I walked out. And I didn't feel that different after I walked in, which is not how I used to feel. Right after chemo, I'd walk out of the infusion center and like be in bed for a week. And yesterday I went and did all the things. And I was like, see, that's redemptive.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's redeeming that last story
Mm-hmm.
in this story.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm trying to acknowledge that and allow myself to see those gifts as it plays out,
Mm-hmm.
because some of this is really healing.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I've like struggled with my gut health for a long time. And there's probably a lot of emotional wrapped up in my gut health and like lack thereof, right? And it may be that God is answering that prayer by allowing me to go through this again and it look different,
Mm-hmm.
and it not be so traumatic, and it be management for as long as it needs to be management, right? So it, again, going back to, it's a choice. I can look at it many different ways. I can label myself with stage 4 metastatic. I'm not, because why? Like, why would I do that?
It's small. It's treatable.
Totally.
You're going to be able to be in a clinical trial.
Right.
Like tons of positives, and that's what we're focusing on.
And if he shuts the door in the clinical trial, then that's not the medicine for me.
Correct.
Right? So he knows all of these things. So it's in his hands, and I'm just trusting all of that. So coming in today, I feel great.
I know.
I'm like ready to go.
Well, that's why I checked in with you a couple times.
Yeah.
You know, because I had planned to have her on prior to this diagnosis.
Yeah, of course.
We already had this.
We had this planned.
And
then it was like, okay, now we definitely have something to talk about.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so I just wanted to make sure that you were comfortable talking about it and in a good place to be able to verbalize where you are. And I just wanted to make sure that it was okay, that you were ready to share this. And one more thing I want to talk about with the kids, you know, and telling Molly and telling Lucy, and mention here that because your family has been so supportive of us, they, including Chris, have seen our family go through what we've gone through. Right. So Molly and Lucy had not had their mom have cancer while they were alive.
That's right.
So in their minds, when a parent gets cancer, they die because Kyle died. Mm-hmm. And so that's probably playing in the back of those sweet little heads.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know, and that I didn't even think about that until you brought that up, you know, and I just was like, it's just so true. Like, they've been by our side and been support systems. You know, those girls have been support system for my girls and my family and my son.
Yeah.
You know, and, you know, so it just, I feel bad. I'm like, you know, like, our story isn't your story.
Yeah. And how beautiful, though, that our stories line up to the point that potentially I could be redemptive for your kids when they look at cancer.
Right.
Right? Like, so that's how God, like, weaves our stories together and allows there to be some redemption. You know, even not understanding all that you went through, but understanding cancer and understanding that struggle and being able to walk with you through that. See, that is a reason why God allows suffering, so that we can minister to others in their suffering. I mean, we're called to bear one another's burdens, and that's part of that. Because how would we do this life? I mean, we talk about it. How do we do this life without each other? Like, how do we do this life without people who understand? I mean, you just know when somebody has gone through cancer and they just get it.
They get it.
They get it, and they understand, and they get that you have bad days and good days, and they're not trying to rush you through it or whatever. They know the right words to say. They know how to comfort you. And so that is beautiful. It is beautiful because we're all here walking wounded, you know, walking wounded warriors.
Right.
Hopefully. But, you know, that is what that is the beauty of it. And so, and even that, like, for Chris to now have to consider widowhood for a third time, right? Like, here he is again having to go, what would life be like if this does take Anne's life and I am a single parent? And he said that to me. He's like, I've just now seen widowhood firsthand over the past year and a half. And not that he knows all the ins and outs of your story and your feelings and emotions and all of that, but he's walked with me while I've walked with you. And so that is like, yeah, It's in your face.
It's in your face.
But you can't run away from it. Like, that's
Right.
the beauty of God. He's like, just let me minister to you in this place. Let me use your stories and like bring beauty out of tragedy.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what he does.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, Anne. I mean, just, oh gosh, it's all these emotions and, you know, it's like sometimes I don't even know what to say because it's just like, you've been through so much. You've been there for us, you know, through so much. And now this bomb is dropped out of nowhere. And we're like, are you kidding? Like 2025 was supposed to be the bad one. 2026 was going to be.
Yeah. There's no, you know, this isn't the world. We weren't made for this world.
Right.
And I think that's a good reminder because putting your hope in anything here is
Mm-hmm.
always going to disappoint. Mm-hmm. Like, always. We were made for a different place. Mm-hmm. And that's there. And it's coming. And in the meantime, we minister to one another. We love one another. Mm-hmm. And I know this is hard for you. I mean, like, you're asking me questions, and I know this is hard for you because, you know, it's hard to like role reverse. Not that we're role reversing, but like, you know, I'm strong and I'm helping you through something that's really difficult. And then now you're gaining your strength again, mm-hmm. right? And I'm watching you help others and pour out of yourself to other people, even as you're still healing, mm-hmm. right? And then it's like, this is where I think God is also good because I'm like, all these people, they need me. And he's like, they need me. Like, slow your roll, you know? Like, right. You're right. Like, I have a servant's heart. And so I want to serve. But it's hard to watch somebody who's been walking alongside you then be like, oof, man, I need a couple days to like just process this and like be not present in people's lives. And that's reality. It's reality because we rely on him. We're each other's direction to him, mm-hmm. right? Like we point to Jesus, not, mm-hmm. you know, we aren't the Messiah. I'm not going to save you. I'm going to sit with you. I'm going to love right. you. I'm going to care for you. I'm going to try to do what I can practically that I can. And then, I mean, that's always my goal. And that's always my heart is that people see him through my story.
Absolutely.
Like don't see me. I'm not a warrior. I'm not talking to the camera. Like I am not any stronger than anybody else out there, but I'm actually weak and I allow him to make me strong. Right. Like it's that relationship. And I just want, I desire him to like further refine me in this way to understand that like I am a weakened vessel and I mm-hmm. do rely on him for everything. And every time I see some place that I'm like focusing on too heavily and I realize, oh, I need to let that go. I need to give that up. I need to surrender. Maybe that's my word of the year. I don't know. I thought it was suffering, but joy and suffering.
Right.
Because it's possible to have both. It is.
It definitely is. And we don't, like you said, we don't see the big picture. Because I struggle still with God. I'm like, why did you do this to us?
Right.
You know, like I know that Kyle's treatment is in other humans now. Mm-hmm. And, you know, his legacy will live on through his Amen. Children and through the studies. And, you know, his life is making a difference in pancreatic cancer and the research being done. But I will always have questions. Mm-hmm. Always.
Yeah, you know? We will.
And always. It's like I trust, but at the same time, there's like don't really fully understand it, which we never will.
Yeah.
And thank you so much for coming on today.
Thanks for having me.
If you have maybe one last word of wisdom, or I know I always say this, and my guests are like, to our viewers, you know, someone that's, you know, you've done such a nice job of sharing your story, but if you want to leave them with one thing, what would it be?
I mean, I would say lean on the everlasting arms. Mm-hmm. Like, he will get you through it. Mm-hmm. He'll carry you. He'll comfort you. He is mighty to save. I mean, he will and can perform a miracle.
Mm-hmm.
I could go into the CT scan they're going to schedule for my eligibility, and they could say,
It's
I
gone.
don't really understand, but it's gone. And I'm praying that way, and I'm asking everybody to pray that way. And I believe he can do it, because he is all powerful. So I don't know. I mean, I guess what I would say is, if you get anything out of my story, it would be, if it's been a while, you haven't gotten in a faith community, and you haven't walked with, we call our group the Jesus Sisterhood. You haven't walked with somebody that walks in, step with the Lord. Like, get into a community, get into a support group, like that points you to the truth, because it is preparation. See, I see where I was then. Just getting into a church. I mean, I was a baby Christian, really. I'd grown up in the church, but I was really a baby Christian and understanding what all this meant. And now, we're 10 years later, and it's totally different. The way I process it, the way I look at it, who I rely on, my prayers, like, all of it is different. And I do have a peace that surpasses understanding. And that groundwork is so important. It's you do it when you're not in the storm, so that when the storm hits, you're on firm foundation. Like, you are standing on the rock. And so that would be my parting wisdom. And you're welcome to come to my house on Friday. Yeah.
Oh, it's so great.
Reach out to
so
Kira.
Great. Exactly. Send me a DM.
Yeah.
We'll chat. So something that, as you were talking, I was thinking in my mind, for Kyle, we had the tagline, "Expect miracles." Someone gave me a sweatshirt that said "Expect miracles." And I remember wearing that and thinking that, and we did get a miracle with Kyle. We did. The end of our story wasn't the miracle, but there was a miracle within. And so with you, I'm going to pray that, let's expect a miracle with you. Let's expect this spot to go away.
And the miracles are already happening.
Right.
See, without that big, the health miracle, so many other miraculous things are happening. And it's like, I got to write them. I just thought about the other day, I got to write these things down, because they're all part of the story.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So,
well, thank you so much for coming
Thank you.
on.
Yeah.
I just adore you in every way.
Same.
So,
Same.
I'm sure we'll be calling each other as we leave.
Yep, we will.
Wow. Thank you guys so much for listening to this episode of Yes We Can. Please subscribe, send to anybody who you feel might benefit from this story. Again, we appreciate your prayers for Anne and all of those that are battling cancer and will battle cancer, because it matters. So thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next week.